You know the scenario. It's 3 a.m., the house is completely silent, you've counted all the sheep, you've flipped the pillow to the cool side for, like, the fourth time, and now you're just staring at the ceiling, wondering if you've completely forgotten how to be a human being. It feels so lonely, right? Like you're the only person on Earth who can't shut their brain off. But if there's one thing our research stack proves today, it's that you are absolutely not alone.
Far from it. I mean, if you look at the global data, we're in the middle of a silent epidemic. Roughly a third of the population is wrestling with some form of sleep disturbance right now.
Which is exactly why we're doing this deep dive. We have pulled together a stack of sources that is, honestly a bit overwhelming, but in a good way.
Yeah.
We've got medical articles on the neurobiology of aging, historical retrospectives that go all the way back to Aristotle, psychological studies on how we sabotage our own rest, and even some very specific guides on, like, biohacking your brainwaves.
It's a comprehensive mix. And the mission here is so important because culturally, we tend to think of sleep as just downtime. Like parking a car in a garage and turning off the engine. But the literature makes it very, very clear. Sleep isn't an off switch. It is a highly active, complex biological necessity. And right now, between modern life, our own biology, and our habits, that necessity is, well, it's under attack.
Okay, let's get into the biology first, because I think a lot of us have this fatalistic view. We see a gray hair and think, well, I'm getting older, I guess I just don't sleep anymore. Is insomnia actually inevitable as we age?
That is the pervasive myth. Old people just don't sleep. And to be fair, the sources do show our sleep architecture changes, specifically the secretion of melatonin.
Right, the hormone that signals it's nighttime.
Exactly, that does decrease as we get older. But here's the nuance. Age itself isn't the villain.
But if melatonin is dropping, isn't that kind of a smoking gun?
It's a factor, for sure. But the medical literature points out that it's often the correlations of aging that are the real culprits. Think about the physical reality of it. You're more likely to deal with chronic pain, like arthritis. It's very hard to stay in a deep sleep when your joints are aching.
Or you're on medications for, say, blood pressure that have side effects.
Precisely. So we're blaming the number on the birthday cake when we should be looking at the hip pain or the pill bottle. And there's a huge psychological component, too, that the sources talk about with retirement. You spend 40 years waking up at 7 a.m. for work. Your body has a rhythm. Then suddenly that entire structure just evaporates.
The sources call this the social Zeitgeber, right? The time cues.
Yes, exactly. Those external cues that keep us regulated. If you don't have to be up, maybe you nap at 2 p.m. If you nap then, you're not tired at 10 p.m. It becomes a cycle. But the research is clear. This relationship is not absolute. Plenty of elderly people sleep perfectly well.
And plenty of 20-somethings are total insomniacs.
You got it.
Okay, speaking of those 20-somethings, and let's be honest, the rest of us, if it's not just age, what is going on? The sources got pretty technical here about something called sleep pressure.
This is a critical concept. If you want to fix your sleep, you have to understand this. It all revolves around a chemical called adenosine.
Adenosine. Okay, break that down for me.
Think of adenosine like a countdown timer in your brain. From the moment you wake up, it starts building up all day long. The more of it you have, the more sleep pressure you feel. It's your brain's way of tracking how long you've been awake. When the levels get high enough, you feel that irresistible urge to crash.
So where does caffeine fit into all this? Because my morning coffee feels like the only thing keeping me going. But the sources suggest it's actually just masking the problem.
That's exactly what it does. Caffeine doesn't give you energy. It's a receptor antagonist. It literally fits into the adenosine receptors in your brain and just blocks them.
Yeah.
The adenosine is still building up in the background. The timer's still running, but your brain can't feel it.
So when the caffeine wears off,
you get the crash. All that built-up adenosine hits you at once.
That explains the 2 p.m. slump. Okay, but beyond chemistry, we have to talk about environment. We hear blue light all the time. But why is it so bad? Is it just that the content on our phones is stimulating?
It's deeper than just reading a stressful email. It's biological mimicry. Your phone emits a specific wavelength of blue light that hits the photoreceptors in your eyes. And it tricks your brain's master clock, the suprachiasmatic nucleus, into thinking the sun is still up.
So it's noon in my brain, even if it's midnight outside.
Exactly. And it completely shuts down that melatonin production we were talking about. You're fighting biology with technology, and then when you add the stress layer on top of that, the emails, the news, the job insecurity, you trigger the sympathetic nervous system.
The fight or flight response.
Right. Evolutionarily, this system is designed to keep you alive. If there's a tiger in the bushes, your body floods with cortisol. You become hyper alert. You cannot sleep when your body thinks it's under threat.
The problem is, today, the tiger isn't a predator. It's an email from your boss with the subject line, urgent.
And your body cannot tell the difference. The physiological response, the elevated heart rate, higher body temp, it's the same. You're lying in bed, safe under a duvet, but your biology is preparing to run for its life.
That is a terrifying image, but it explains so much. Now, I want to pivot a bit because I just assumed this whole can't sleep thing was a modern problem. Our ancestors slept like logs because they didn't have iPhones. But the history source in our stack was a wild ride.
Oh, it completely upends that idea.
Yeah.
Humans have been obsessed with and failing at sleep for thousands of years.
I was shocked to see Aristotle in there.
4th century BC. And Aristotle was surprisingly sharp. I mean, he didn't have MRI machines, but he linked sleep to digestion and physical activity.
Yeah.
He had this theory that vapors from food would rise and cool in the brain, causing sleep. It wasn't quite right, but it's a biological theory.
But then we sort of lost the plot. The section on the Middle Ages was pretty dark.
The Dark Ages were truly dark for sleep science. As we moved away from those classical thinkers, the view of insomnia shifted. It went from biological to spiritual. If you couldn't sleep, it wasn't because you were stressed. It was seen as like a demonic possession or a punishment from God.
So the prescription wasn't exercise more, it was wear this amulet.
Or chant this spell. It really shows the desperation. When you don't understand the mechanism, you grasp at the supernatural. It wasn't really until the 19th and 20th centuries that we saw the scientific turn, with people like Wilhelm Wundt and Ivan Pavlov.
Pavlov is the dog guy, right, with the bell.
That's him. But his work on conditioned reflexes is actually the foundation of modern sleep therapy. He showed us that we can train our brains to associate certain triggers with certain responses. If you spend every night lying in bed worrying, you are literally training your brain. Bed equals worry.
You're conditioning yourself to have insomnia.
You are. And that realization, combined with discovering circadian rhythms and melatonin, finally brought us into the modern era. We could finally treat this as a medical issue, not a moral failing.
Okay, so we know the history, we know the biology, but I have to play devil's advocate here. Let's say I'm a high performer. I'm busy. I listen to this and think, okay, so I'm tired. I'll just drink an extra espresso. What's the big deal? The sources were pretty brutal on that so what question.
They were, and they need to be. The so what is that you are fundamentally compromising your biological machinery. We're not just talking about being groggy. Lack of sleep weakens your immune system. It causes hormonal imbalances that lead to obesity because your hunger hormones get all thrown out of whack.
But the part that really stopped me was the brain drain. The sources mentioned something called the glymphatic system. I've never heard of this.
This is one of the most important discoveries in neuroscience in the last decade. Think of the glymphatic system as the brain's night shift janitorial staff.
The cleanup crew.
Literally. During the day, your brain cells are working hard and they produce metabolic waste. One of these waste products is a protein called beta amyloid.
Wait, isn't beta amyloid the stuff linked to Alzheimer's?
It is the primary plaque found in the brains of Alzheimer's patients. And here's the kicker. The glymphatic system only turns on during deep sleep. Your brain cells actually shrink to allow fluid to wash through and flush out these toxins.
So if I pull an all-nighter, or I'm just getting 4 hours a night...
The janitors never come in, the trash piles up. You're trying to run a high-performance machine with its gears clogged by toxic waste.
That is incredibly motivating.
Yeah.
Okay, you've convinced me I need to sleep. But how do we fix it? The sources mention pills, but they seem very skeptical.
The skepticism is warranted. We need to make a crucial distinction that the sources really hammer home. Sedation is not sleep.
Explain that, because if I take a pill and I'm unconscious, isn't that sleep?
No. Alcohol and sleeping pills are sedatives. They basically just knock out your cortex. You lose consciousness, sure, but you do not get the restorative, complex electrical cycling of deep sleep and REM sleep. It's like hitting pause on a computer versus running a system update. You wake up, but the maintenance it wasn't done.
Right. You're just coming out of unconsciousness, not actually rested. So if pills are a trap, the sources point to CBTI as the gold standard, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia.
Yes. And this isn't about lying on a couch talking about your childhood. It's a very practical, structured program to change your behaviors. And frankly, some of the techniques are brutal.
Let's talk about the most controversial one, sleep restriction. I read this 3 times because I thought I was misunderstanding it. It says if I can't sleep, I should spend less time in bed.
It sounds like torture, doesn't it?
It sounds insane. If I'm only sleeping 5 hours a night and I'm exhausted, why would I force myself to stay up until 1 a.m.?
It's all about sleep efficiency. Most insomniacs spend, say, 9 hours in bed, hoping to catch 5 hours of sleep. They spend all that extra time tossing and turning and checking the clock. That just dilutes the sleep pressure.
So the bed becomes a torture chamber.
Exactly. Sleep restriction forces you to match your time in bed to your actual sleep time. If you only sleep 5 hours, you're only allowed in bed for, say, 5.5.
So I have to stay up until 1:30 and get up at 7. I'd be a zombie.
You will be a zombie. For the first week, it's very difficult. But what happens? You build up massive sleep pressure, that adenosine we talked about. When your head finally hits the pillow, you pass out instantly. You consolidate the sleep. You relearn that bed equals sleep.
It's a hard reset. High risk, high reward.
It is the single most effective intervention we have, but it takes discipline.
And another technique was stimulus control, which goes back to Pavlov.
This is the strict rule. The bed is for sleep and sex only. No reading, no doom scrolling, no watching TV, no arguing with your partner.
I feel personally attacked. I think I do all of those things in bed.
Most people do, but you're confusing your brain. If you watch Netflix in bed, your brain thinks the bed is a movie theater. You have to strip away all those other associations.
Okay, let's pivot to tech. We live in the age of data. I wear a tracker. You probably wear one. The sources mention something called orthosomnia.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
This is a new, very modern disorder. It's anxiety caused by an obsession with perfect sleep data. You wake up, you feel fine, but then your app says, sleep score, 60%, and suddenly you feel terrible.
It's like the placebo effect in reverse.
Exactly. The data can be useful for spotting patterns, like, oh, I drank wine and my deep sleep vanished. But we have to be careful not to let the device dictate how we feel.
Speaking of data, I keep seeing ads for apps promising to give me alpha waves. Is this real science or is it just marketing fluff?
It's actually based on real neuroscience. Even if the marketing is a bit hypey, your brain operates at different electrical frequencies. Beta waves are when you're awake and alert, stressed, working. Delta waves are deep sleep.
And you can't just jump from one to the other.
No, it's like trying to shift a car from fifth gear directly into reverse.
You'd strip the gears.
You'd wreck the car. You need a bridge. That bridge is the alpha state. It's that feeling of relaxed wakefulness. It's what happens during meditation or when you're just zoning out looking at the ocean.
So the goal isn't to force sleep, but to create the conditions for the alpha state.
Correct. You need to downshift. Beta to alpha, then alpha to theta, then to delta. The sources suggest using things like meditation, deep breathing, or nature sounds to help induce that alpha state. You're creating the runway for sleep to land.
I love that analogy. Okay, we have covered a ton of ground. I want to leave everyone with something actionable. Based on our stack, let's build a little cheat sheet. What are the rapid-fire fixes?
Okay, practical toolkit. Number 1, and this links back to stimulus control, the 20-minute rule.
If you're not asleep in 20 minutes.
Now get up. Do not stay there tossing and turning. Go to another room. Keep the lights dim. Read a paper book. Do not touch your phone. Only go back to bed when you feel sleepy. You have to break the cycle of frustration. Got it. Number 2.
Temperature. This is non-negotiable. Your body's core temperature needs to drop to initiate sleep. The sources suggest 16 to 20 degrees Celsius.
For our American listeners, that's roughly 60 to 68 Fahrenheit. That is chilly.
It is. If you're not reaching for the duvet, your room is too hot.
Number 3. Napping. To nap or not to nap?
Nap, but with a timer. 20 minutes, maximum.
Why 20?
Because after about 20 minutes, you start slipping into deep sleep. If you wake up from deep sleep, you get sleep inertia, that groggy, hungover feeling. Plus, you've stolen too much sleep pressure from the night ahead.
The power nap is science, not just a buzzword.
Okay, and finally.
Sensory deprivation. Blackout curtains are essential. Even a little bit of light can trigger your photoreceptors. And white noise machines to mask sudden sounds traffic. A dog barking. They can spike your brain back into alertness.
Simple, actionable, and backed by the data. So, to recap this deep dive, insomnia isn't just about getting old. It's about a mismatch between our biology and our modern life. We learned about the toxicity counter of adenosine, the brain janitor lymphatic system, and why the Dark Ages thought we were possessed by demons. And most importantly, that pills are just sedation, but things like CBTI and simple habit changes can actually fix the machine.
That's the summary. You have more agency than you think.
Before we sign off, is there one final thought you want to leave our listener with? Something to chew on?
You know, reading through all these sources, one thing really stuck with me. We often view sleep as this passive thing, the empty space between our busy days. We treat it as an afterthought, an inconvenience. But the biology tells us it is a foundational, highly active state. So here's the question I'd love for you to consider. If we treated our preparation for sleep with the same discipline and planning that we treat our work presentations or our gym workouts, how drastically would our life change? We meal prep, we schedule meetings. Maybe it's time we started scheduling our downtime with that same level of respect.
That's a powerful perspective shift. It's not checking out, it's checking in for the most important maintenance of the day. Thanks for diving deep with us.
My pleasure.
Sleep well, everyone.